So, let's see, Children's Health Fair 2018. We are going to talk about Detoxifying Children 101. So, this is in your handy-dandy guide. Okay, we whipped this thing up this week. It's a pretty awesome little resource. So, we're going to talk about detoxifying children. Again, this conference, our whole theme is about our children, what's going on with our children, restoring our children's health. Even if your children are healthy, how do you keep them healthy in today's toxic world? So this class is going to be fun because I love to talk big picture stuff, and hopefully it's logical, hopefully it makes sense to you. And I'm going to give you the general overview of how to work on detoxifying your children. Now, what I'm going to talk about for detoxifying children is obviously work for any human being. Okay, the focus is children, but of course this would work for, yourself too. Of course, you're not that different. But the focus is on children because our children are suffering. They're not. What's the way to put it? They didn't choose to be dealing with the things that they're dealing with, right? A child doesn't choose to deal with these horrible eczema and skin conditions and these colicky issues and all these things that are going on. They're kind of a result of our culture. They're a result of toxicity and choices that have been made generation after generation. And so it is our responsibility, as parents to help our children restore their health. So I mentioned it a little bit in the last class, but I'm going to talk about it again when we're talking about detoxifying children. Symptoms are good. Symptoms are telling us something's wrong. Symptoms are part of how God designed the body to let us know that something is out of tune with a body created in the image of God. Okay? So what we see as bad or negative or the body's failing or something's going wrong is always a step of the body trying to heal itself. Okay, I don't know if anybody here would agree with me that having a cyst or a tumor is a good thing. The reality is if you didn't have that tumor, all those poisons and toxins would be in your bloodstream and you'd probably be dead if you didn't have that tumor. Okay, so the tumor is the way God created the body to keep toxins and poisons isolated outside of the main organs in the bloodstream that would otherwise, you would not be alive. Okay, so I just really want you to understand this concept that when we're talking about children, and we've seen some crazy things with children full of tumors and brain cancer, and it's just horrible, like some of the things happening to our young children that really shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be happening. So we need to understand how to help them and help them detoxify, because they certainly have no idea what to do. They are looking to us to help them. And unfortunately, the medical system has very, very few answers outside of short-term treatments to help symptoms temporarily, but they have no idea how to heal a child. I'm just going to be very frank about that. The medical system has no idea how to heal a child. We know this because they do not link nutrition with health. If you can't link nutrition and health, you shouldn't be in the medical system. You have no clue how to help a human being get better if you don't think diet or nutrition has something to do with your health. I mean, that's just mind-boggling that we're so far out of logical thinking and understanding that we don't link diet with health. Okay, you don't take a lion, put him in a zoo, feed him cheeseburgers and french fries, and don't expect him to die, because he will. That's why our dogs and our cats are riddled with sickness and disease and tumors and diabetes, right? Because we feed them. But that's not happening to deer and to moose and to antelope. So this is a result of doing the wrong things, creating these sicknesses and diseases. And again, in our children, they deserve better. They really do. They deserve better. So, one point I have to make is that children are born congested. Children are born toxic. We think that our children are born with a clean slate. It is not the truth. Children are born only as healthy as the mom's system. Now, does dad play a role? Sure, he does genetically. But the congestion and the toxicity that's being inherited by our children is from mom. Mom's lymphatic system. Mom's stress and anxiety issues. I can see it in a child's eyes. They're called stress rings or anxiety tetanic rings. You can see them in the eyes. You can see children born with a congested liver, a congested acidic system, a lymphatic system that's completely clogged up. And we know it symptomatically because of the things we're suffering with, allergies and asthma and earaches and sinus issues and skin conditions and all these things that shouldn't be. So our goal is to understand that this is happening, but how do we reverse it? So let the past be the past, right? We don't want anybody to feel shame or guilt because of choices they made that have affected their children's health. Because let's just be honest, we've all messed up. We've all done the wrong things. Your parents all did the wrong things. That's just the result of a broken, fallen world. Okay, but I do feel like we can restore it and get back. So that's our whole cry, like everything we do here at Spirit of Health, getting back to the Garden of Eden, getting back to God, getting away from all the man-made stuff that's created this situation that we're in today. And we can go back. We can always return back to God. Like He's the same yesterday and today and forevermore, right? He hasn't changed. We've changed. The wrong way. But we can go back. So our goal with our children is to create a clean, flowing river of life inside of the human body. Okay, because the body is a flowing river. I'm going to give you an example. Troy would know about this. A lot of you guys would. Mountain streams up in the mountain, 5, 8, 10,000 feet. You come across a fresh stream, fresh water. Would you drink that water? Yes. He didn't even hesitate. Yes. Okay? So let's go down the street, green stagnant pond. Would you drink that water? Okay? This is your body. Okay? You're either doing things to create a clean flowing river where infectious disease, infectious organisms, cancer, tumor, those things cannot survive in that type of body, or you're creating a green stagnant pond. And unfortunately, most of us have created a green stagnant pond. We didn't know. Nobody told us. Nobody told us Cheez-Its and Ho-Hos and pizza and soda pop wasn't good for us. We had to learn it the hard way through suffering, right? Through suffering. And so our children are suffering because of these choices. So we want to get back to creating a clean, flowing river of life in the body. And I want people to have that understanding, because if you believe all this weird stuff that they're saying in the medical system about how you need, steroids and steroid creams and to get all these shots and all these things, that doesn't create this river of life. It doesn't address the congestion and the toxicity inside the body. It's been said by all natural health practitioners throughout history, at least any good one, that there's only one disease, and it's toxicity. It's congestion and toxicity in the body. It's things interfering inside of the body that are contrary to how God designed the body to function. And so when you get your river backed up, because I don't know if any of you know this, but how many miles of tubing and networks inside the body, it's mind-boggling. The low estimates of the cardiovascular system is 60,000 miles. That's the low estimate, 60 to 100,000 miles, they say. And they say we have twice as many lymphatic vessels as cardiovascular vessels. So you have hundreds of thousands of miles of tubes in your body that are designed to be free-flowing. I give the example of like the LA freeway. If the LA freeway has 16 lanes and there's an accident and 8 lanes get shut down, traffic still goes, but it slows down a little bit, right? Okay, you want to know what that's called in the human body? Pain, inflammation, arthritis, headaches, eczema, all this stuff we put all these silly names on just to describe a condition is all the same thing. It's a congested, toxic body. And if you subjugate yourself to the medical system, they'll say, oh, you have blah, blah, blah disease, which is just a fancy name that you don't understand, like in Latin, of what describes your symptoms, or a doctor's name who discovered it or something like that. You'll never find the root cause of your health issue, and that's because of congestion and toxicity. Okay, so does that all kind of make sense? Very basic, okay, but it's just logic. So here are the 5 steps for how to detoxify a child. Okay, number 1, ideally, now not everybody's going to be able to do this, but ideally you do some testing to find out what's going on. Okay, children are born toxic. Now I can safely say that because my children were born toxic. I can see that as much as we fight for their health, our children are born as a result of our health, more mom's health, because she was the carrier of that baby. But I'll tell you this quick story. Our firstborn daughter, Naomi, when she was 2 years old, she had a lot of things happening that we didn't like. I mean, she was sensitive to, dairy and different things. She'd break out in rashes. That was the least of our concerns. She wasn't sleeping at night. She started complaining that her legs hurt all the time. She'd want me to carry her all the time. That wasn't normal for a 2-year-old child. Now, we knew enough to know that that wasn't normal. And so I knew the symptoms could be a couple of different things. But one thing I did is I did a hair analysis. And I actually did, because I'm just really hardcore, I did 3 different hair analysis with 3 different labs. And all 3 of them came back the same. One of the highest levels of mercury toxicity that the labs had ever seen. One of the tests was 6 times the toxic level of mercury. In our 2-year-old daughter, who was never vaccinated, who certainly was never exposed to mercury, where do you think she got it?
Your wife ate fish.
My wife had a mouthful of fillings, and she had them all removed right before we got married. And all of that mercury, I don't want to say all of it, but a good portion of mercury transferred to our daughter, relating in symptoms that we knew enough of to find out what it was. And so we started a mercury detox on her, and within 3 months, she was perfectly fine. She never stopped. She never complained about her legs hurting, her leg pain anymore. She stopped asking me to carry her around. She started sleeping through the night. And praise God that we knew that, we learned that, and we knew how to take care of. Now, do you think if I would have brought my child who wasn't sleeping and was complaining that her legs hurt to a medical doctor, what would he have told us? Growing pains. I don't know, what else? We don't know. It's all in her head. Whatever. Just crazy stuff. Because they have no understanding, they have no real understanding of the human body. And they're great at emergencies, but they don't understand the human body and toxicity and how to remove toxins from the body and the role of nutrition that nutrition plays in the body. So you can do lab testing to do like hair analysis to check heavy metals. You can do urine tests to check chemical toxins. There's a test we do that checks 172 chemical toxins, herbicides, pesticides, polymers, solvents, paint thinners, fuel additives. I mean, you wouldn't believe perchlarates that show up in people, which is rocket fuel, because people lived near military facilities. My wife was actually high in perchlarates. We checked all this stuff in my wife and our kids. You wouldn't believe what showed up. Unbelievable. My wife lived in Hawaii and grew up near an army base, and you don't think all that junk gets into the land and gets into the water? You bet it does. We're being poisoned. We don't know it. So if you're not filtering your water, you're drinking tap water, oh my gosh, you just poison yourself every single day. That's just the world that we live in. So a lot of these chemical toxins come from our water, especially tap water, especially live in farming environments. So you can check mycotoxins, which are mold toxins. I could tell you 100 stories, but I just got to tell you a couple good ones. One is a 2-year-old girl having seizures every week. And we're talking life-threatening seizures. The parents didn't know if their little girl was going to live or die every time this happened because they were so severe. They'd go to the hospital, and the medications didn't even work right away. It would take a long time even for the medications to work, and this was happening every week. Okay, can you imagine going through that as a parent with your 2-year-old child? So they came in, and we put her on CBD oil and a couple of things, and it got better, but she was still having them. So I'm like, hey, you need to find out what's going on here. So we did a mycotox test. We found mold toxicity, black mold, in this 2-year-old child. Turns out she was living in a 100-year-old house that was full of mold. Got the child out of the house, cleaned up the mold in the house. It's been over a year. In that year, the child started to have one seizure, but it wasn't even bad enough to go to the hospital. When every week they didn't know if they were going to lose their child or not. How many of these kind of different situations by the thousands do you think are going on in our world today? And our children are suffering and they don't have to. And people don't know what to check for and what to test for to see what's going on with their children. So heavy metals, chemical toxins, infectious organisms like mycotoxins, which are mold toxins, but also yeast, candida, fungus, clostridia, different organisms. A case of an autistic child who was fecal smearing, like he was just out of control, just fecal smearing all over the walls. I mean, again, what a nightmare for the parents. Turned out this child had chronic toxic clostridia levels, which is an infection in the gut. They actually made the decision in that case to give the child vancomycin, which is a really strong antibiotic. The next day, the child was completely different. The next day. Stopped fecal smearing, symptoms completely shifted. It's because that infection was so toxic and poisonous to his body and to his bowels, and it was affecting his brain so much that he couldn't even function as a normal child. So our children are suffering for Hosea 4:6. Our people are destroyed by lack of knowledge. The information of the truth of what children need to be healthy and what's going on with them we've been completely blinded to the truth of what's going on with our children and in our world. So ideally doing some lab testing would be great. Every child is totally different. Symptoms are totally different. Some things are mild, some things are intense. You got an autistic child. I'm like, you need to check everything because I'm not going to guess at what's going on with this child. I don't know. One child can have mercury toxicity like our daughter did, and another child could have the clostridia infection, and another child could have glyphosate poisoning, which is a Monsanto herbicide, because people living in Iowa and different parts of the Midwest have some of the highest rates of cancer in the entire world because of all the herbicides and the pesticides. So again, this is just the chronic poisoning of our world that's getting into us, and it saddens me that it's happening to our children. It really, it's heartbreaking. Number 2, stop clogging up the pipes. So I'm using just kind of basic language here, okay? Stop clogging up the pipes. So you got a pipe in your house, and your pipes get clogged, and what do? Clean them out, right? Clean out your clogged pipe. So do you know you also have a bigger pipe that leaves out of your neighborhood? So you got a sewer system, and there's a big pipe that leaves the neighborhood. So if that main pipe gets broken, what happens to the neighborhood? You're all in big trouble, right? It's not pretty. Okay, so the same thing's going on in our body. So you have this system of 100,000 plus miles of piping, of tubing. It's blocked up and it's congested. And we keep putting things, it's like having a trash can that's full, and instead of taking the trash out, you just keep putting trash on top of it, and you go, why is it getting so stinky in here? Okay, this is what's going on inside of our bodies, but we can't see it. We know we don't feel good. We know we have headaches. We know we have food allergies. We know we have skin issues. We know we have sinus issues. We know we're getting earaches. We know all these things are happening, but we can't see inside of our bodies. And so we don't realize it's a buildup of trash, a buildup of toxic waste, a buildup of things that aren't designed to just hang out in the body and cause all of these problems, especially in our kids. So we have to stop clogging up the pipes. So this is the conversation that people don't like to have. We fought it. Who doesn't fight not wanting to eat everything and have just complete free reign to do whatever they want and eat whatever they want? Who doesn't fight against that? We all fought against that. Now, if you lived even just 150 years ago, you didn't have to fight that as much because they didn't create all this man-made weirdness that we have today that we eat and call food. But, man, it's changed a lot in the last 150 years. And so diet is everything. And, you know, if you got to be convinced of that, because you got to understand that if you're going to detoxify your child and you're going to give your child a good chance at life and you're going to give your child a chance to not suffer from all of these debilitating conditions that children are suffering with today, you got to learn how to unclog their systems, okay? And know that for the most part, they're born with congested systems. So what foods clog up the body? It's not a tricky question.
No, dairy.
Dairy. Gluten, wheat, sugar, corn, meat. Yay, you all get gold stars. Okay? So I want to make this clear so that you all understand this, okay? I'm going to tell you real quickly the difference, and this is everything, between a healthy diet, what we think is a healthy diet, and a healing diet. There's a difference, okay? We're so far gone in our food supply now with fast food and pizza and burgers and fries and just all this junk that we eat. We're so far gone that we think just shifting out of the standard American diet to eating Ezekiel brain, sprouted grain, raw dairy, like that's the answer. So that's shifting out of the worst of the worst to a little bit better, but it's nowhere close to a healing diet. And I have to explain that to people because you won't get better and your child won't get better if you just shift to that, okay? And so that's kind of like, not to pick on anybody in particular, but that's kind of the mindset of like Weston A. Price and some of these other organizations that promote raw milk and grass-fed beef and all of these things. And again, I'm not saying that's not way better than the standard American diet because of how far we've fallen. It's far from a healing diet. Far from it. The reason is because our bodies are so gummed up, they're so congested, they're so weak that they can't handle even what we would consider a quote-unquote healthy diet, okay? And this is what people are finding out. You're trying to go from eating pasteurized, homogenized dairy to eating raw milk. It sounds good in theory, but in the reality of a congested system, it doesn't work. You still can't process it. You still can't digest it. There's still just the logical fact that cow's milk designed for a 1,000-pound cow isn't designed for a human baby. But we give it to them because that's like what we've been told to do. But it doesn't really make sense, but it's what we do. And so you can't just start eating healthy dairy and raw milk and all this. Now, you can call that a healthy diet, and it's way healthier, again, than where a lot of people have been, where we've been. I was raised on, Cheez-Its and Cheese Whiz and chocolate on graham crackers, and I'm not even joking. I just fended for myself. It was macaroni and cheese after school. Anyway, I could get into all that, but, it's pretty bad. Eating healthy for us is when my dad barbecued, and it was like chicken and vegetables. That's as good as it got, you know what I mean? But most of the time it was pizza and just junk food. And so those things clog up the pipes. And so a healthy diet can be, I never recommend dairy ever, period, okay? But a healthy diet can be fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains like your Ezekiel bread and that kind of stuff. Lean meats, I recommend sticking to what a clean meat is based on Leviticus 11. This isn't legalism. This is that God is smart and told us what we should eat. Because pigs are designed to clean the earth, harbor infectious disease without killing them, and parasites and things like that. That's why we know pork's horrible for human health. But God said it in the Bible. So again, it's not a legalistic thing. It's like, it's wisdom. It's wisdom to me. But you can stick to chicken, turkey, fish, eggs. You know, that's a healthy diet. And that's okay. But if you want to detoxify your child, if you want to heal your child of eczema or allergies or asthma or chronic issues, you need to shift to a healing diet. And I'm going to tell you very quickly what that is. So here's the reality. The more we can get away from the extreme of what is man-made, back to the extreme of what God gave us in the Garden of Eden, and most of us are like here and here if we're lucky, okay? But if we can get to here, this is the healing diet, okay? Because Genesis, Adam and Eve in a garden was fruits and vegetables that they picked with their hands, okay? They weren't eating, you know, nut butters out of jars. Fair? Okay? But we do that because it's healthy, right? To eat nuts. So we go crazy with this stuff. But we got to get back to fruits, vegetables, and greens. You want to know what a healing diet is? Fruits, majority of your diet. Vegetables, number 2. Green things and herbs, number 3. And if you want a true healing diet, that's it. That's it. That's what people are doing with cancer and multiple sclerosis and all these chronic health issues to reverse this stuff. The child who was so full of tumors that she was begging her parents to cut her legs off because the pain was so bad. This is the reality of the world we're living in. That child went on a healing diet of fruits, vegetables, and greens, and all those tumors came out of her body. Now, what would have happened if she would have went into the medical system? Okay? So, you got to get back to, we're all somewhere in here. And that's okay. We're all on our own journey. It's cool. Okay? Nobody's beating anybody up about it. But we got to get as close to here as we can, which was Garden of Eden, original intention, living food, living God, no killing, because that was the Garden of Eden. Okay? And again, I'm not advocating vegetarianism or veganism. I will never do that because I don't like labels. I don't like separation. I think Jesus is way more important than what diet we eat. However, there is a reality to God's original creation and design and what's best for human beings. Okay? We can argue all we want of all the health benefits of pizza because it has tomatoes on it and this and that. I mean, it's a joke. It is a joke. It is so far from the Garden of Eden. Now, if you're not in a chronic health situation and you want to have fun with that stuff, that's fine. But if you really want to heal, if you really want to see your children not suffer, if you really want to not have cancer and chronic illnesses, you got to get serious about getting back to the Garden of Eden. You have to get serious about it. And we have to get serious about it with our kids. So children do best and they detoxify best with fruit and vegetables. Why fruit and vegetables? They don't clog up the pipes. I don't know how much more simple I can get with this stuff and how much more logical it is. You can't put dairy with its high fat content, high protein content, high sugar content designed for a huge cow in the human body and expect your child to get better. It's not part of a healing plan. Do you see what I'm saying? Meat is heavy and it's acidic. There's a lot of acid waste in meat. It's hard on your kidneys. It's hard on digestion. It creates an acid load in the body. Okay, so again, I'm just saying that wheat, sugar, grains, dairy, it's not about gluten-free. Go grain-free. It's not about gluten-free. All grains have a lot of anti-nutrients, lectins, things that are very hard to digest, very hard to process. Now again, if you're in super amazing, wonderful health and you work out all the time and you don't have any health issues, you can probably get away with eating some sprouted bread. I'm not saying it's like the worst thing in the world. I'm trying to explain what a healing diet is so that your children can overcome their chronic health issues. Do you see the difference of what I'm talking about? Okay, so children who can't breastfeed, if they have health issues, get them on fruit. Fruit's high energy, hydrating to the system. How much of us are in chronic dehydration? Very hydrating to the system. And it creates very little metabolic waste byproduct in the body. So our lymphatic system, our colon, our liver, these organs are gummed up and congested in our kids. We have seen this in our kids. We have seen our first daughter, we were into Weston A. Price, doing the raw milk thing, all this, thought we were like figuring health out. And here our girl's breaking out in rashes, and she's screaming, and she's quote unquote colicky, and she's having all these health issues. We just had to finally like give in, and stop doing dairy, stop doing all these things that we now know congest the human body and contribute to the suffering and the sickness and disease. It's acidosis. It's acid waste buildup in the human body that causes the suffering that we're having today that we blame on all kinds of other things that we don't really fully understand. So a healing diet is fruits, vegetables, and greens. And I kind of say, I don't remember where I said it. Oh, I said eat the cleanser. So that's number 3. I'm kind of getting into that. Fruits, veggies, and greens. Okay, so yeah, I said that. Fruits, greens, and veggies. Kids love fruit. I mean, do you guys have kids? Do they like fruit? It's not hard to give kids fruit, okay? And they can get better eating fruit. The problem is all the other things we're eating. It's the goldfish and the pasta and the breads and the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and, it's all of that stuff. And it's hard. I get it. I mean, we're moms. We're busy. Life is crazy. We don't have time. We don't have fresh foods. We don't have our own gardens. We're living at grocery stores, and we're on the run trying to eat out. I get it that it's really hard. It's hard for us too. But we are trying to find the balance. We have a garden. We go to Costco and get the giant 4-pound things of grapes. And I'm so weird. When I check out, I always get a comment when I check out at Costco. They're like, I even asked the guy, this is just last time, I'm like, so do you think people, that buy this kind of stuff are weird? He's like, I wouldn't say weird, I'd just say different. And I'm like, that's fair, I'll take different. Because, I got 5 things of grapes, 4 things of bananas, 2 cartons of mangoes, and they're like, that's weird.
Are the grapes that healthy then?
Sometimes they're organic, sometimes they're not. I don't stress out about it. I know that sounds weird coming from me, but it's like I would rather you eat fruits and vegetables than be like, well, they're not organic, so we just bought bread and cheese. You know what I mean? That's what people do. Well, it's cheap. So I fill up half my sink in water. I dump in a cup of hydrogen peroxide. I soak my grapes and all my fruit in there, berries. They have organic sometimes. We need to start growing food. We need to start planting trees. We need to start planting fruit trees. I think we're going to. That's a message I know that's going to come out of me in the future. That's on the Lord's heart for what's coming for the end times. But we got to start preparing by planting fruit trees and food and garden and stuff like that. It's coming. Okay, I'm not going to get into that now because I'll get way too worked up. So eat the cleansers, lots of them. And I put in here, can kids eat a diet of 80 to 90% fruits, vegetables, and greens? The answer is yes. Your mind says no because of all the other stuff you've heard out there. Where are my kids going to get their carbs and their sugars and their protein and their fats and their this and their that? Like, where do all the animals get it? It's a mystery. We got a gorilla that can rip a human being in half that sits around and eat fruits and greens and pulls roots and eats roots out of the ground, and I don't know, where's he get his strength? I don't know. So again, this isn't about vegetarian, vegan, meat, no meat. It's not about that. It's about trusting God that he's a good designer, that fruits, vegetables, and greens have the most living, powerful nutrition for restoring health to the human body, and that most everything beyond that is congesting and problematic to human health. Again, when you're trying to restore chronic health issues. Now again, if you're eating nuts and seeds and chicken and turkey and fish and eggs, I'm cool with all that. I think that's awesome. But the most powerful things, like our kids, it's amazing night and day how we've shifted in 2-3 years. You watch some of my old videos, and hear my videos today, you don't even know what does this guy even believe? You know what I mean? Because I'm on the journey too. I'm trying to figure it out too. And so I humble myself, and I've said stuff in the past that I know is probably misinformation. So we just gotta keep working towards the right direction. But I know in my heart God's restoring me, our family, and us back to the Garden of Eden. That is the cry, that we would get back there to what fully restores us back to good health. And that means removing the congestion, the toxicity, the buildup of stuff in the human body that's causing the suffering. So yeah, real simply, fruits are the best because of high energy, good hydration. We have some charts in your little guide. You want hydrating fruits. You don't want to sit around and eat bananas and dates all day because you will feel junky, okay? But if you eat the grapes and the citrus and the apples and cucumbers and celery and salads, you can feel amazing. Now, there's so many nuances to this we don't have time to get into, because if your hormones are shot, which a lot of people's are, especially busy moms, and your adrenals are tanked, you're going to do this and you're going to feel not very good, and you're going to feel tired, and you're going to feel like something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. It's you're exhausted and you've never admitted it, and you need to rest, and you don't know how to rest, and you don't know how to heal because you don't know how to rest, right? Am I being honest? I mean, I see Susan and like, I get it. I have 8 kids. I can't rest. Okay. So, I mean, that's the reality though. But this is a healing diet. And what I've found is when people switch to fruits, veggies, and greens, they get exhausted at first because they're supposed to be sleeping and resting and healing. Support your adrenals, support your hormones, and do this with your kids. Do this with your kids. We have our little girls on adrenal support and hormone support, and that sounds weird. It's not weird. It's little tinctures, and they put them under their mouth, and they line up like little birdies, and and they're just like, give me my medicine. And it's easy. It's so easy to give kids herbs, okay? It goes back to what I talked about in the first class, Ezekiel 47:12, that fruit would be our food and leaves would be our healing. And so you can do fruits, veggies, greens, lots of herbal formulas to help with their bowels and their kidneys and their lymphatic system and kill infections in their body. And like we had with our daughter, we had specific things to remove the heavy metals from their body. And you can get your kids well. And that's the thing. I want people to have hope and confidence that you can get well. Because the medical system doesn't offer that. There's nothing you can do. It's only going to get worse. Better just keep giving them the steroids. Oh, you got an autoimmune condition? We better suppress your immune system. Like, that's brilliant, right? So there's no hope. There's very little hope in that system. But there's hope in God. There's hope in how he created you. There's hope in getting back to the Garden of Eden. There's hope in learning that cleansing and detoxification. I mean, the 2 things that the medical system ridicules the most is nutrition and cleansing. How ironic that that's everything to heal the human body that you need to know about is nutrition and cleansing. That's it. It doesn't matter the name of your disease. That's what will get you well. Period. Number 4, herbal formulas. I have a top 5 list in here. The plants God gave us, there's an innate intelligence to God's creation. There's a reason certain herbs do certain things for the kidneys, and other herbs do things for the liver, and other herbs work on the thyroid, and other herbs work on the pancreas. It's because God knew we were going to be a mess, and he created all the medicine that we need if we choose to look for it and to use it. And so we need to use those tools. We need to use the herbs that actually cleanse and open up and help the body remove toxins. And it's so easy in kids. That's why I gave that little supplement list on the top 5 supplements. At the end, I list all these herbal tinctures. You can give them brain and nerve formulas. You can give them focus formulas. You can give them adrenal stuff, liver stuff. And you can do it so easy. So easy. Liquids, pop it under their tongue, put it in a smoothie. Herbal capsules, open it up, mix it into a smoothie. It's super easy. Number 5, get the entire family on board. This can be a challenge. I see people shaking their head already. I see a lot of, I'm a guy. Can I make fun of guys since I'm a guy? Is that okay? So, yeah, sure. See, it's fun. It's fun. But I see mostly women. Okay, I see mostly women. And guys are stubborn. They never think anything's wrong with them. I mean, they can be dying and they think they're, I'm fine, I'm cool. You know, I mean, they just are so stubborn. And unfortunately with the nutrition thing, I see the moms, needing to get their bodies in shape because they've had kids and their hormones are a mess, and and so they're wanting to get healthy. They love and care for the family. Not that the dads don't care for the families, but like they feel that mothering instinct to take care of the kids. So they're fighting for their health. They're fighting for the kids' health. And the dad's like, well, if I got the kids, we're going to eat pizza. You know what I mean? I mean, that's real. That's real, and it's really sad. It's really sad. So we need to catch the vision for this, and men need to catch the vision for this. And if nothing else, honor your wife and honor your children, that you're trying to restore health and you're trying to get well. And it's hard sometimes because a lot of times the men aren't on board. And so if you're going to have a plan of action and you're going to do this as a family, I mean, I can't imagine my wife and I with what we're trying to do with 3 little kiddos. If we weren't on the same page, can you imagine like how challenging that would be? So those are the top 5. That's big picture stuff. You can really drill down into this. And getting into specific protocols for specific conditions and all kinds of different things. But I got to give you the big picture, because if you don't understand nutrition is everything, and we're doing things and putting things in our body that clog up the body, and you don't understand that detoxification and cleansing is everything to restoring your child's health, then you've missed it. Because if you think it's about the supplements, you're going to be disappointed. You just are. You know how many times I've literally told people in my office, don't waste your money on the supplements if you're not going to change your diet. I don't care. I don't want you to give your money to me if you're not. I want to see you healthy. I want to see you restored. I want to see your children well. I want to hear that God's creation and his design of the human body and the natural things that he gave us works. Not that the natural things don't work. Because they do. In the reality, it's the only thing that really does work well for long-term human health. So I hope you can see just our heart, our passion, our desire to see children get well. They don't have to be suffering with what they're suffering with. They don't have to be the label that the medical system gives them, and that becomes part of their identity, because it's not who they are. And it's not their portion, and it's not who God designed them to be. And so I want our little ones to grow up understanding the truth of how they're designed. And really the reality is I want people, children and adults, we should not fear sickness and disease. We should not fear having to run to the medical system and get vaccines because we fear all these different sicknesses. If we had any belief of the power of the human body to heal itself, and to believe that it can heal itself and that God's a good designer, we shouldn't have to fear all of those things. So, again, not that we won't have to go, and I don't know. So far, praise God, we haven't set foot in a hospital, our family. We had insurance for a while, and then we canceled it because we're like, what's the point, So, we hope to keep it that way. And we hope through understanding like natural things we can do, we can keep our children healthy and well. And again, it's not because our children were born with some like superior, supreme health. I mean, it's kind of a joke to me. You know how many people come up to us, oh, your children must be so healthy. I'm like, well, at least we're fighting for their health. We're fighting for their health. But they're not, you don't undo generation after generation after generation of toxicity and poisoning of our bodies in like a year. It really takes a lifestyle, and it takes a commitment by the whole family, and it takes a plan, and just baby steps are okay. Baby steps are okay. You'll get there eventually. So that's it. That is Children's Detoxification 101. Any questions? Yes?
Did you say the percentage of like fruits, veggies, greens?
I didn't give a percentage. But I believe there's a lot of nuances to it, like I said. And there's a little food combining chart in there. You always eat fruit on an empty stomach, and fruits are great for meals. So what our family has for breakfast is fruit. That's it. In the winter, sometimes we have a little oatmeal, or if the kids are starving, we might have eggs or something. But 90% of the time, our breakfast is fruit. We don't do pancakes and cereal and eggs and sausage, and you don't need all that. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but you don't need it. So we do fruit for meals and snacks. I can't really give you percentages. The percentages I give people is ideally it's 80 to 90% fruits and veggies and greens. 10 to 20% your proteins, nuts and seeds, your healthy fats. You need those things, but they should be really itty bitty. Our scales are off. Our scales are the switched.
So in proportion, you're saying maybe even more fruits than veggies.
I'm saying more fruits than veggies.
Okay.
Yes, and I know that sounds weird because the whole world is like, fascinated as vegetables as the most powerful healing thing out there. But the most powerful healing tool out there is actually fruit. But you got to do it the right way. And there are some nuances to that. So I put them all together. Fruits, veggies, and greens, they're all great. But fruit, I think, is the most powerful. Yes?
Have you ever seen the ketogenic diet work as a healing diet or a diet for a season?
Good question. So I wrote a whole thing on the ketogenic diet, and I thought I was going to get shot, okay? But I wrote, no, I'm joking, but I wrote like 14 reasons why you shouldn't do a ketogenic diet. Now, the thing is I used to recommend a ketogenic diet, and I've seen ketogenic diets help people lose weight. They're not diabetic anymore. Like, there's all kinds of positive things that happen when you go on a ketogenic diet. The problem is the long-term dangers of a ketogenic diet aren't worth it, and you can do the same thing with fruits, vegetables, and greens. So you don't have to do a ketogenic diet to accomplish the same goals. I think people do the ketogenic diet because they've heard about it, they know it works, they've heard the testimonials, and they don't know that there's any other way. And so I just think it's dangerous long-term, and I wrote 14 reasons why in a blog if you want to read it. Now, I got tens of thousands of people out there that totally disagree with me. That's okay. I mean, it's just information. You got to discern it for yourself. But I have seen ketogenic diets help a lot of people with weight loss, and it was designed originally for seizures. That was the original design. But if you actually read the research, you'll find the negative impact that what's the word? I can't think of the word, but the negative reactions these children were having after staying on the ketogenic long term.
That was only a temporary.
It's supposed to be temporary. And we're making it like it's supposed to be a permanent diet. It's very dangerous. Let's just say this. There's dozens and dozens of places you can go in the US and abroad to try to heal from cancer and chronic illnesses. None of them are a high-fat, high-meat diet. Right? I mean, that's not a healing diet. May be great temporarily, but to eat tons of fat in our world today where our systems are congested, blocked up, our lymphs congested, we need to cleanse, we need to detox. We just learned from Jessica that all toxins are fat soluble, they're lipophilic, so all these toxins are staying in fat. It's just, I just think it's dangerous long term. But short term, it can be a good transition. Let's just say that. Yep.
If you're hungry on the vegetable, fruits, and greens, then what's the best form of protein? I've heard that hard-boiled eggs or something like that is more digestible.
Okay. She just said fruits, veggies, and greens, how do you get your protein? I mean, you can trust that fruits, vegetables, and greens have amino acids, which is what help your body builds protein. Here's how it works. Animals and people can eat fruits, vegetables, and greens, and it builds protein and muscle in your body. Okay? Animals can eat those things. Animals build the protein, and then we eat it. It's a secondhand protein that to use it, we actually have to break it down into amino acids that are usable by the human body. Does that make sense? So it's a secondhand protein that we have to break down. That's why all the acid waste, that creates acidosis. That's why it's very damaging to the kidneys and causes all kinds of problems long term. So to get your protein, get it in greens, alfalfa, wheatgrass. If you want to do eggs, that's fine. And you can do small portions of lean meat, but you can do the plant proteins. We got the Vega and the protein zyme by the US Enzymes is our new favorite. Like everybody's going crazy over it. And so just get a good absorbable plant protein because it's way easier on the body, less acidic waste, not hard on the kidneys, doesn't lead to acidosis, and doesn't lead to a lot of the problems that we're having today. So I better end there because I think I'm out of time. Yeah, so thank you guys.